Welcome to the Becoming Eva podcast, where we discuss real-life issues from a woman's perspective.
Becoming Eva seeks to break the silence within the female community while fostering authenticity, transparency, and healing.
We're your hosts, Latoya Moore
and Maya Dawson.
Let's get started.
And we are...
Good morning, everyone. Good morning.
Good morning.
Becoming Eva fans, welcome to our show today.
It's been an awesome week. A difficult week, but an awesome week. But as you can tell, we have a very special guest with us this week. So let's introduce, we have her back for a second time, the one and only Dr. Cassandra Bolar. So give it up for her. We're super excited to have her here this morning.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you so much for the
Yes. I forgot we got the soft one here. I'm like, look now, give us some volume here so they can hear all these nuggets. You be dropping them gems, so they gotta hear it.
All right, I'll make sure.
Yes, that's what we're talking about. Good stuff. So let's start out. Toya, how are you doing? How's your week been?
Well, for me, this week has once again been another mentally and emotionally draining week. Last week on Saturday, we talked about police and politics and pandemic. And then the very next day on the news, we hear about Jacob Blake, another Black man that was shot in the back 7 times by a police officer while his 3 young sons were in his car. Their ages were 3, 5, and 8.
My goodness.
And so as far as I know right now, he's paralyzed from the waist down and still in the hospital, going through lots of surgeries and different things.
Yeah.
I just cannot believe, I watched the video just like I watched the George Floyd video, and it's so hard to just watch like that happen. And I was just like, OMG, are you serious? Another one?
Wow.
And so then the protest broke out. And then on Tuesday on the news, we get word that this white teenager, Kyle Rittenhouse, shot and killed some protesters. 2 of them, killed 2 and injured 1. And then calmly walked in front of police officers. Didn't get arrested. He had his semi-automatic rifle and he just walked by. Like, really? Like,
crazy.
Never see the flip side. I know a lot of people say, oh, it's not all about race, but you will never see a white man being shot in the back 7 times by a police officer or getting his neck crushed by a police officer. You will never see that type of stuff on the news. It's crazy that we're living in this world. Yeah. And then yesterday night, then we get more horrible news. And Maya, you can share about that news as well.
Yeah, well, I wanted to, before we get to that, talk about how what I am glad about in the midst of all of this is that that we had basically a couple of nights of protest from the NBA and actually from all of the sports teams, where it was like, okay, this is more than just a shirt that I'm wearing. This is more than just, Black Lives Matter on the floor as we run and dribble and shoot, but like, we're serious about this. And so I was glad, honestly. I mean, I know people were disappointed they didn't get their fix for, a couple of nights or what have you of their games and such, but I was glad that they took a stand and basically were like, okay, we got to put our money where our mouth is, basically. And if this is going to continue to happen, then we're going to have to take other steps. And so I was glad to see that. I know there are a lot of different opinions on, them making the decision to come back. I think actually the games may start back today, but all that to say, I'm glad that a stand was taken. And it has to be a stand that we continue to take. You know, we have to continue to put our money where our mouth is. If it's, you know, intentionally supporting, you know, Black owned businesses, if it's intentionally boycotting, you know, establishments that are rooted in, you know, white supremacy and white privilege, then so be it. Because it's time. We just can't keep, you know, rolling over and letting this stuff continue to happen. You know, it's not one of those things where it's like, oh yeah, this is a trend, this is a phase, this will pass. You know, granted, this is something, you know, we've been dealing with, you know, definitely for all of our lives and for centuries, but beyond that or before that. But still, you know, we cannot continue to move forward with business as usual and think that this is okay, this is normal, and this can continue to happen. So I'm glad that a stand was taken, and I hope that more stands will continue to be taken, because we cannot continue to move forward in the direction that we're moving forward in, like, at all.
Right.
Yeah. Dr. Bolar, do you have anything you want to share? I know we're both on our soapboxes, like ranting right now, but
Yes. You know, I think it's so critical because you have to, if God is giving you a platform, you need to use it to do good.
mm-hmm.
I was just even reading today about how working for justice is even more important than sacrifice.
Yes.
So working for righteousness and justice is even more important than sacrifice. And so I think it's critical when you have a platform whereby if you make a stand, it can bring more attention to it. Then I think
Mm-hmm.
it's very critical to do so. And I think as well, you know, it's just showing and illustrating how our lives are just not valued as they should be
Mm-hmm.
with some who have been given the charge to protect and serve.
Yeah.
And it's just so problematic, and it's really traumatizing, I think, for people to literally see that through on their phones, you know, just all of what we've experienced just this summer, you know, even just during this pandemic. It's triggering and it's traumatizing, and what is happening is kind of like one blow after another blow after another blow. But you know, it's really critical for us to do what's within our power to stand up for righteousness, to stand up for joy, for justice, while also allowing the or to calm our heart emotionally in respect to the trauma that we are, or it's emotional trauma for all of
It
us,
is.
and being able to, you know, to maintain that healing that we need so that we can move forward to do the work that we're called to do and bring attention
Absolutely.
to injustices.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you use that word, because I think, you know, especially people of color don't often realize, like trauma is a very real part of your life, and you can almost become desensitized to it,
Mhm.
which then in and of itself may yield other challenges, you know, mentally, emotionally. I mean, mental health is a huge deal, you know, today. And I think a lot of it is steeped in past trauma that we either haven't been able to acknowledge or refuse to acknowledge, or are just so used to ignoring that it's like, oh, I just thought that was a normal part of life. No, this is not normal. It is not normal. And we have to acknowledge that and take steps toward that health and healing that you're talking about. So, very, very true.
Yeah.
And then, of course, as Latoya was alluding to earlier, you know, just last night, we got the news, you know, that Chadwick Boseman, Black Panther, you
And
know, also known for, you know, portraying James Brown, portraying Jackie, was it Jackie Robinson?
Jackie
yeah,
Robinson.
Yeah, and Clint, the oh my gosh, why am I going blank? But
Marshall.
yes, thank you. I mean, like literally, he played some incredible roles, you know, and over the past 4 years have been battling cancer, which means while he was shooting Black Panther, was
yeah,
battling colon cancer, going through chemotherapy, having surgeries. Like, I mean, literally, like just the warrior in him. I was just in awe
me
of
too.
that, you know. And I know a couple of months ago, it may have even been earlier this year, I had saw on social media, someone was saying, wow, Chadwick Boseman looks really thin. And so, and then shortly after that, The Five Bloods on Netflix released. So in my mind, I was thinking, oh, he was probably getting ready for this role, because sometimes actors go through major transformations. But the fact that this man is shooting film after film after film while battling colon cancer, that's amazing. Like amazing. So what an incredible legacy. I mean, definitely gone too soon. I mean, 43 years old is entirely too young for anyone to be, losing their life. But what an indelible legacy that he was able to create and leave in such a short amount of time. So I do want to take like just 10 seconds of silence to reflect on his life and his legacy, and to also pray for his family. So if we could do that, we'll just take 10 seconds of silence. Let's do that. Amen. Amen. Definitely keep his family in your prayers, and we'll continue to celebrate the iconic portrayals that he has depicted over the years. Like, incredible. Yeah. Anything else anyone else want to share about this past week, which has been wow, before we dive into the topic for today? No? Well, let's jump in. Let's jump in. We're talking about how to quarantine proof your relationships. And so thankfully, Dr. Bolar, this is her area of expertise. So we got to get an expert on here because people are going crazy, like stir crazy, relationships are being strained, people are stressed out, it's just a lot because we have been quarantining now for what, 4 months, is it? I think so. Like, I want to say,
5.
oh my gosh, 5.
March to August.
Yeah. So we're going into 6, honestly. So
Yeah.
good Lord. It'll be 6 in a couple of weeks. So Dr. Bolar, if you can, especially for those that weren't able to catch the previous episode that you were on, if you could share a little bit about yourself and actually how you've been quarantining, how you've been doing over these past 6 months.
Yes, most definitely. So I'm very honored to serve. I'm a psychology professor at the University of West Georgia. And then I'm also a counselor, a marriage and family therapist, and I love serving couples. My specialty is with premarital couples and providing them with a plan and a strategy for marital success. And then also I have a background in service-oriented research, whereby we did a lot of interventions in the community where we were kind of joint partners with the community to do parenting interventions that aim to improve child well-being, health, nutrition, social competence. And then also a lot of my research has focused on fatherhood and father involvement and intergenerational fatherhood, and how parenting practices are passed down throughout the generations and how it impacts your mental health as a father and then also your relational functioning as a father. So I just so honored to serve in an area that I'm extremely passionate about, and I think something that truly matters for everyone because we are relational beings and we're created for relationships. And above and beyond any other thing, when we're looking at longevity, quality of life, and health, is the importance of having close relationships is unparalleled. So I'm just very honored to be able to serve in this capacity.
Absolutely. Wow. Well, that's incredible. An incredible resume that you have there, and an incredible calling, as far as relationships are concerned, even specifically looking at the relationships that we have or may have lacked with fathers, with our fathers. That's important and incredibly important. We don't realize it oftentimes until it's too late, but it is very important. So thank you for sharing that. So, how has quarantine life been for you? First of all, share with us who you're quarantining with. Tell us about your family.
Most definitely. So I'm quarantining with my husband and our two little kiddos. So we have a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old. So
Wow.
yes, my 1-year-old life has not changed much except for mommy's home a lot more. And so she's having the time of her life. She's living her best. I think she's living her best life actually in quarantine. And then my son has really enjoyed being home, and but he has said, I want to go to school. And so I'm like,
Oh,
oh, I know you want to go to school, see your friends. And so we're doing virtual learning right now. And my husband, honestly, he's been working the whole time. So
mhm,
his schedule has not changed.
mhm.
He's been working this entire time. And now I'm actually in the classroom physically at the school. So I'm doing
Wow. Okay.
in-person teaching right now as well. And so I'm really grateful for support during this
Mhm.
time. So it's sometimes like I'm literally doing virtual learning with my son, and then literally have to leave and take him, and then and my daughter and run to school and come back. And so
Yeah.
it's some juggling in there, but I'm still very grateful for this time. It's a very unique season.
Wow. Well, hopefully you can give us some tips and tricks as we talk about that juggling, because it really is a juggling act that most of us are dealing with these days. So let's talk about, first and foremost, relationships with your spouse or your significant other. So, like, in the midst of all of this, how have you been able to navigate, spending time with one another? Without driving each other crazy. I mean, it sounds to me like you kind of have a similar situation. My husband's work schedule hasn't changed much either. So this may not be a challenge for you, or it may be. I don't know.
Yes, well, for his marketing portion of the work that he does, he would usually be kind of gone a lot during weekends, but now he's home because all those events have been canceled. And so we do have a lot more quality time together. And it's really kind of made me take an inventory of myself. Oftentimes before we said we didn't have the time, but and quality time doesn't necessarily mean going out. And for me, sometimes I'm the type of person where if you just sit down and talk to me, I'm just happy as I'm so happy. That's all you have to do. I'm not too hard to please. You just spend some time with me, talk to me, hold my hand, I'm set. But I think we do have that extra time. And I think what the elephant in the room is that we all are experiencing a heavier weight emotionally. And so the fact that we are carrying a little bit more anxiety just because of the climate, that weighs on us. And what is happening is that we're showing up in our relationships with this extra weight. So sometimes our ropes are shorter. So our patience may be shorter. We may be more easily aggravated or agitated because of the weight and all of what we are juggling and the uncertainty involved as well. And so, really, what's critical, I think, during this time is really finding your anchors, because we don't know when this is going to change, but what are those anchors that kind of keep you solid as a couple? And I think, it's also a wonderful time to really take an inventory over now, how do we want to move forward in our relationship?
Wow. Very good. What about you, Toya? How things going?
Well, I'll tell you, my situation is a little different than what it was like before quarantine. Um, I was always working from home, and then of course my kids were, going to school, so I had, some me time that I could work in throughout the day. But once COVID hit, Ryan started working from home, so we were both working from home. I had my office, and sometimes he would use my office, and then we made him an office somewhere else so that we kind of still had our little space. But we still had to juggle with the schoolwork, which was difficult, because both of us were in having meetings and still doing like our normal jobs, and then digital learning was like a regular school day, so we had to balance that out like every day. Okay, do you have I have a conference call at 11 o'clock. Can you help her get on this Zoom and then help her with this? And then, so, we're always like moving our laptops all around the house so that we can multitask, help, my oldest get on her Zooms and then help her with her work. And then my 4-year-old helping her. She's not in any digital learning platform, but we still have her doing like ABC Mouse and working on different skills and different things too. And then, of course, my 2-year-old, she likes to get involved and learn things too. So then we have her on like the iPad doing like educational apps and coloring. And then sometimes if we take our eyes off of her, she's coloring on our walls. And Lord, I mean, it's a mess sometimes, because sometimes we're like, well, we both have meetings at the same time. So we have our nanny cams and, all over the house and talking to them through the nanny cams, and you watch your sister just for like 30 minutes, and it's a lot.
So in moments like that, or in scenarios like that, what would you recommend, Dr. Bolar, for couples that are all over the place? Like, how do you find time for each other? Like, how do you carve out time for each other? I mean, you're seeing each other all the time, so that's great, but you all over the place, like.
Most definitely. And I think sometimes your expectations may have to adjust as well due to this unique season. But I think if you are comfortable with having help of someone who you feel like they've been socially distancing very well, and they can come in and maybe watch the kids for just a little bit, or even getting up earlier before the kids get up, or having some time once they're down, maybe putting them in bed a little bit earlier so that you can have that time, and seeing that support and help if needed, someone who you may feel comfortable with, so that you can have that time. It doesn't have to be a weekend trip, but it could be just something simple, having a picnic once the kids go to sleep, and having time where you actually cut the TV off, like maybe kind of using the time where they are down, maybe a little bit more geared toward your relationship instead of, but it's hard because you're probably so tired. But even if it's just once a week, maybe having a commitment of how you're going to move forward in that respect.
Yes, most times we both look at each other at the end of the day, and we're like, let's just go to sleep. But Friday nights are our date nights. We do on Friday nights, it's kind of like a family date night thing, where our kids are in the playroom. We normally get takeout every Friday night, so the kids are usually eating Chick-fil-A, watching a Disney movie, and then we're in the next room over. Last night we got Longhorns, and we were relaxing in the theater room, and then we put them to bed early, and then we continue our date night every Friday night. But throughout the week, it's usually like, we tired.
That's great that you've been consistent with the date night. Yeah, that's important. That's important. So excellent. So we cannot leave the singles out. So we know it's a different season. It's a different age. I was talking to one of my girlfriends earlier this week just about like the dating scene, if you will. And so many people are opting to date online or virtually date, which in some cases I've heard has been a better opportunity for them to genuinely get to know the person. But are there any tips or any recommendations that you have for our singles that are just trying to navigate this? Or maybe they're not dating and they're just like, I'm in this house or this apartment by myself and I'm lonely. Like, what thoughts or advice do you have for them?
Most definitely. I think that this whole social isolation can be very hard when you live alone. And so finding other ways to connect digitally, I think, are important. And maybe having a standing date, whether that's with one of your friends, having some way to connect. And if you are comfortable on a one-on-one basis, to, actually meet in person with your best friend, your sister, like taking advantage of that, because it's critical. Like, we are created for relationships. And also too, online dating is definitely a viable option. Now, there are some sites that are not really geared toward anything long term, so you want to kind of use your discretion when you are using those online platforms. But what we do see is about 1 in 4 of all marriages started online. So it
Wow.
is a very viable option. And also too, with the inventories that you take, they are really matching you on compatibility areas that are critical for the longevity of a relationship. So that means that, this is now a new viable option, for a lot of people, especially since we're not actually able to kind of go out in these large settings and actually meet people. And then another thing that I really think is really important is to use your current network. Like, there are people in your network who love you, and they know of other good people as well. And the good thing for that is that they've probably already vetted that individual. And in that respect, maybe you could get together in a small group setting and they not even know that you're kind of there to kind of see what they're all about. And I think you're more likely to see the authentic self when someone knows that you're not watching, and you trust your friends or your family members' judgment, and they've kind of vetted them, and they wouldn't even bring this person to the table if they didn't think this was a good human being. you know so maybe even utilizing your networks to, see if they know of anyone who would be a good match for you, because they know you well and they probably know other people well. So don't I say also use those networks as well. And you may feel more comfortable because in an online setting, you don't know their people, they don't know your people. And so you don't have any kind of way to vet them. But when it's a friend of a friend, then your friends know about them and there's probably a group of people, and so you can feel maybe a little bit more at ease and a little bit more comfortable kind of going that route as well. So those would be a few of my suggestions. I would say don't turn down online dating. It's actually a very viable option currently. I would say if you are single, my recommendation, and you just are feeling lonely, reach out digitally, reach out one-on-one with people, and you can practice social distancing if you want to. Let's meet at a park. You sit on at the edge of the bench, I'll sit on the other edge of
There
the
you
bench.
go.
I can to see your eyeballs and see you, and let's communicate and find community. Find community and be active.
Very good, very good. That's so true. Sometimes you just need to remind yourself, like, hey, I'm a part of this world. So let me go out and see, and like you said, you can practice social distancing, if it's outdoors at a park or a venue or what have you, but just making sure that you reach out and you surround yourself with people that love you. So very, very good. Anything else you want to add, Toya?
Encourage also, if you're single, to perhaps work on some personal development. If you have a lot of time, maybe do some more education, higher level education, work on, your physical health, getting fit, exercise, eating healthy, doing all those things so that when you can go back out, that you're on track, like with your personal development aspects is what I would say. When you're ready to get actually back out there in the scene of dating, if you're not comfortable like with the online dating, that's what I would suggest.
Very good, very good. Dr. Bolar, were you going to share something else?
Yes, and I was just wanting to also add is that the reality is that this time will end. And we want to create a vision moving forward and have clarity on what we want that to look like. But we want to gather the nuggets of this time, because growth oftentimes happens during the most challenging moments. And so how do we want to go to that 2.0 level as an individual and in our relationships? And it's oftentimes through these times that we can we can thrive actually. And so I think it's important to reflect and take inventory so that you can be equipped with that knowledge moving forward. And I think in taking inventory, there are some important questions to kind of ask yourself in respect to relationships. And so, thinking about pre-quarantine, when we were kind of the regular schedule of life, what were you neglecting to do in your most meaningful relationships before quarantine that will be non-negotiable moving forward?
Absolutely. We talked a little bit about that last week. I think that's actually our BE challenge for this week. So that's
Yes.
excellent, because the thing is, God doesn't waste anything. Like, this is
Uh-huh.
not a mistake where he's like, oh, I tripped up and COVID happened. No, he's sovereign.
Right.
And the thing is, it's our job to lean in and say, okay, God, you're a God of sovereignty. What do you want me to get during this time? What do you want me to learn during this time? How do you want me to grow and develop during this time? Because you want me to get something from this, whatever it may be. It could be something as simple as spending more time with my family and not taking them for granted. Or it could be something as simple as not being afraid to look inward and not being afraid to be alone, because sometimes we use other people and grab crowds and groups, as a way to hide from ourselves. So whatever it is, like, hone in, stop, pause, hone in, listen to yourself, listen to the Holy Spirit, and say, what do you want me to get from this time, so that it doesn't go to waste, because guess what? If you don't get it now, you'll get it later. You'll get it later, one way or the other, and I don't know what that looks like, but I know I try. I don't always get it the first time, but I try to get it, immediately, so that I don't have to, go through whatever trials or hardships I'm experiencing again. So yeah, very, very good though. So, but yeah, lean in during this time. Awesome. So anything else before we want to dive into the parenting aspect here?
No.
Ready for the parenting? Okay.
One last thing too. I think it's in respect to relationships and as your family as a whole, like, even if there was a financial lesson that you needed to learn as well during this time, and how will you ensure that maybe your family has more than, two incomes? Like, how can you increase and have another stream of income? Like, how are you going to kind of even take your family to the next level financially? Because we've come to recognize that everything that we thought was very dependable, it may not be. And so wanting to kind of maximize, your streams of income during this time as well.
Very good. Very, very good. Toya, you have anything you want to share on that?
No, I was just saying that's very true. Like, my husband, he just started the foreign trading, and that's been a wonderful additional income to our family. And he just started that during this COVID season.
Yes.
So yes, I agree.
Absolutely. Be unconventional and find those multiple streams of revenue, so that you're not just dependent on one thing, because things are shifting, things are changing, and we gotta figure it out. So yeah, very good. All right, so let's dive into parenting. Of course, we know just from Toya's day-to-day description of what she goes through, I'm like, good Lord, I'm out of breath just thinking about it. Like, I'm out of breath thinking about it. So, but like, what can we do during this time of hustle and bustle and juggling and navigating? How can we basically go through this season if we're, teaching our children from home, or if we're working from home, vice versa, but things are changing and we've got children in the mix. What can we do to establish like some sense of stability and security, and actually reduce some of that stress and frustration that's in the home environment during this time?
Oh, there's so much. And I think initially we have to kind of give ourselves grace. This is a very unique season, and it's asking a lot more from us when it comes to even parenting. And so I think sometimes we have to give ourselves grace, and things that are non-essential, don't do them. If it's non-essential, get that off your plate. And I think we want to, ensure that everything is being met, all the schedules are going perfectly, that they're, still doing perfectly in school. But I think at the end of the day, what really matters to when parenting is really meeting their essential needs. Like meeting what really matters most, remembering that it's really critical for them to feel a degree of security, a degree of feeling included, degree of feeling respected. Like there are some essential child needs. And so meeting those is what's critical. And if there's something you can get off your plate, get it off your plate and ask for help. Whether that's your child's other parent, whether that's a grandparent, whether that's you just need a couple of hours just to kind of catch your breath and kind of take care of you. Like when you feel overwhelmed, I think that's when it's critical to kind of reach out and try your best. I know things are serious, but try your best maybe not to take them too seriously, and just stop and have time for just fun. Turn those frustrations into fun. Like at the end of the day, what you're really, really frustrated about a year from now, will it really matter? And so just taking those opportunities, since we do have more time with each other, to schedule an art project or what have you. But I think it's really critical to give ourselves grace, reach out for support when we feel overwhelmed, and just take a moment to have fun.
That's really good. Really, really good. Wow. Toya, are there any things that you found yourself doing during this time to just like take a minute and regroup and refocus?
Yes, we like to go for walks and go outside and let them play in the little kiddie pool, planting a garden, let them come outside and help and water the plants and different stuff like that. Just getting some fresh air, taking those little breaks are much needed throughout the day. And with my oldest, she started piano lessons. So that kind of gives her a break from all the academic stuff all day, all the time. So she loves playing the piano. She just recently started. So that's another, avenue that we're trying to kind of, break up the academics all day. Let's read, let's get on the Zoom, let's do the computer, something other than the computer.
That's real. That's real. And that's very true, because now, I mean, not only is the computer or screens, I'll even throw televisions in there, but they're used for, entertainment, learning, like everything. So you definitely have to break up that screen time, because that can honestly be detrimental if that's all your child is getting. Like they need that human interaction, that outdoor interaction. Like that's really key. Very good. So I will say, I mean, not all of us are fortunate enough to, have the opportunity to work from home if need be. I mean, we still have parents that are essential workers during this time, that are committed to being on the front lines and, are out there trying to, improve the situation at hand, and dealing with this pandemic head on. So like what are some tips that you have for those parents that may not be able to physically be home all the time to help their children learn virtually?
Yes, I say find support that you trust. Find support that you trust, whereby you know that they're going to, do whatever is required to ensure that your child is learning, that your child is safe, that your child is also having a good time. And then there are some in-person options for parents who are essential workers and they don't have like a grandparent or a best friend or someone who isn't also working. Maybe all of their friends are also essential workers.
Yeah.
So there are some early learning centers that are still available. There are some in-person secondary education opportunities as well. Seek those out, seek out ones that you feel comfortable with. And some people, some teachers who were teaching in a classroom, they are actually holding school on a small scale in their home.
Very good.
I don't know if they are all advertising it online, but it would be something to consider. So if your child is a young child and your school is no longer open, I would check with the teacher from last year to see if they know of anyone who was teaching, who could be teaching in home now in a small setting. And because I actually, a young lady I trained with, she was telling me that she's teaching, I think, in person as well now. So she's an essential worker. And so one of her children is in one of those schools, like in-home small school with only six students in the classroom. So there are options where you just want to ensure that you feel safe about it. It's someone you trust, and they'll take care of your baby just as well as you would.
Absolutely. And I want to take this time to really just say, like, you know, for parents that are in scenarios like that, or where they're just like, okay, I need a break. So my child is going to, you know, a learning center during the day or what have you. Like, there should be no guilt. There should be no judgment. There should be none of that. Like, we are all in survival mode right now, doing what we can, the best we can to stay sane, to, you know, stay prepared and to provide for our families and, you know, and all of that, to stay safe. So I don't want there to be any judgment or guilt if, you know, if you can't be there, or you're just finding this is better for our family dynamic to have our child in a different environment for, you know, some hours out of the day. Like, whatever your scenario is, all of our lives and family dynamics look different. So whatever it takes for your family to work and to keep moving forward, so be it. Like, so be it. So I just wanted to share that, because I know it's real easy to, you know, parent shame or to feel some kind of way yourself, you know, like, for real.
I know, even if you don't have an option, just to feel like, okay, I have no one to watch my babies and I have to take them somewhere in person. You know, I'm so happy you said that, Maya, because that's so true. You feel like, or family members are like, well, what are you doing? And this, that, and the other. And it's just like, oh, I have to survive.
Yeah, it's real. It's real. Whew. So yeah, I just wanted to share that for anybody, whoever it was that may be dealing with that, just to give you some freedom, to set you free in that moment. So, but also, I guess on the flip side of that, how can we, kind of like what we were talking about earlier with leaning in, how can parents lean in during this time and use this as an opportunity to cultivate their relationships with their children?
Most definitely. We do have that extra time. And I think even in the curriculum now, you know, some schools are not faith-based. So you can infuse devotion time into the schedule, and you have a little extra time, you know, and also I say, what is your vision for your parenting? What do you want the ultimate outcome to be? And then figuring out, backpedaling, what are the steps that you can put in place now and kind of lay that as a foundation, so that when life gets busy again, you don't lose these routines. You don't lose those little small things, because it doesn't take an hour. Sometimes it's just 10 minutes of the day where you have like group prayer, if you want to do group prayer as a family, or, you know, creating like on a quarterly basis, these are the things that we want to do with the kiddos, and having that system in place, so that when life kind of goes back to quote unquote normal, you still have these routines in place. I think it would be helpful.
Very true. Very true. Toya, were you gonna say something? I felt like you were about
No,
to.
I'm saying I agree.
Yeah. Anything though that you feel like you have learned about your children during this time that you may not have before, or even just realize like, oh, hey, they're really interested in this, or they're really good at that. Like,
I have been learning so much more about their little personalities during this time, and just learning more about like what they're really interested in and what bores them and the things that they don't like to do. So it's been interesting, like getting to know their little personalities, because they're all so different. And it just makes me think about, like, once things go back to normal, like other activities and different things that I want to get them involved in now that I'm seeing that their little personalities develop a little bit more.
I love that. Oh, I love that. But yeah, this is, I think, an incredible time to, really cultivate those relationships, if it's reinforcing or getting back to, having meals together, or like you were saying, Toya, going on walks together, or like you were saying, Dr. Bolar, praying together, having that family devotional time, like whatever those opportunities are, I think it's important for us to cultivate them now. And then also to look at how we want them to look moving forward, how we want those times to look moving forward. It may look different, but we still have to be just as intentional about making sure it's a part of our relationships. So I mean, I really honestly, as horrible as the circumstances and a lot of the scenarios and situations have been during this season, it's a gift. And I want us to try to see the God side of it and see how he wants to use it for our good, even if all of it doesn't feel good or seem good or look good, there are definitely opportunities for us to grow and for us to grow closer to one another, and to, most importantly, grow closer to him. So yeah, very, very true. Anything else either of you want to share on relationships and parenting?
And just like she said, don't get too frustrated. Don't take yourself serious. Relax, have fun.
That's good. That's very good. And focus on the essential. I think oftentimes we're trying to keep up with things that we used to keep up with, but it's like, hey, if you got to take some stuff off your plate, take some stuff off your plate. Like, focus on what is essential. So that's really good. And I know you shared some of the things that are essential, but I feel like we even need to make that clear. Like, what are the things that should be essential? Because I think sometimes we trick our minds into thinking certain things are essential, and they're not really. Like, we just feel obligated to do them. So, like, what would you say are like the key essentials for families during this time?
Most definitely. There are about five kind of critical needs for children, and
Mm-hmm.
the top critical needs for children are one, to feel respected,
Mm,
to feel important, to feel accepted, to feel included, and to feel secure.
mm,
And so, if we can ensure that we are meeting these critical emotional needs, that's what truly matters. Do they feel safe despite all of what's going on in the world? Do they feel included? You know, and I know sometimes, do they feel included in what's going on throughout the day? And do they feel accepted? Do they feel like their feelings are important to you? And so that's
it's important, very important. So I think we may have some technical difficulties. I don't know if she's coming back, but I think
it's
she did
okay.
share. Oh, there you go. Yeah. We lost you for a minute, Cassandra. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. But then that's okay. Oh, it said my internet was unstable for a second. I'm sorry.
It's okay. I know you named those 5 areas, but I think we may have missed the last thing you said.
Oh, okay. Um, so feeling respected, important, accepted, included, as well as secure. And
Mm,
those are essential needs. Those are emotional needs. So if we're really meeting their emotional needs, we're meeting their physical needs, we're feeding them, we're
yeah,
keeping their clothes clean, just the essentials, and
yeah,
ensuring that they are thriving academically as much as possible, that's what matters.
that's good. One more question I had real quick too. I would be remiss if I didn't ask this. My prayers have really been for children that were already in unstable homes before COVID, and now have to be in those homes more than they would like to be, where their parents may be suffering from addiction, or they may be living in poverty, or there just may be that there may not be that mental and emotional stability that you were talking about. Like if there are adults there that are listening to this that know of children like that, maybe they have taught those children, or maybe they are, related to those children, or maybe those children are just in their neighborhoods and they have a glimpse of what they may be going home to each day. What are there any resources or any suggestions that you would give? Or even if those children may be listening now, they just kind of got a glimpse and they're like, I don't have any of those 5 things that you're talking about. Like, what in the world? Like, I need help. Like, what are some thoughts you have for them?
That grieves my heart because
Mhm.
when you're a child and you experience trauma, it literally reshapes the architecture of the brain, right?
Mm,
Because what we call them, they're called adverse childhood experiences. And
mm,
so Kaiser Permanente, in conjunction with the CDC, they looked at and examined how adversity during childhood, we call them ACEs for short, adverse childhood experiences,
mm,
how do they impact their kind of emotional health, their physical health, even it can even affect chronic diseases. And
mm.
so we want to definitely offset those experiences. We do not want children to have that adversity because trauma really recircuits the architecture of the brain. And that toxic stress, it puts our stress response system in a state of hypervigilance so that even when we're calmed down, their heart rate is higher than it should be. And
Oh,
so we
wow.
want to prevent that by all means necessary. And also that toxic stress, it reroutes or it shapes the architecture in the brain, and it really affects the learning centers of the brain. So we definitely want to prevent that by all costs. And so, in those situations, we need to find a new environment. If the parents aren't able to provide that stability, then we need to find maybe a sister of the mother, maybe an auntie, maybe a grandparents who have a stable home, find a stable home for those children.
Mhm.
And not only that, but help the parents get the help that they need.
Yeah.
Because oftentimes, and I've done a lot of in-home therapy, working with families, working with children. I used to be a child therapist as
Oh,
well.
wow.
And so, I've gone into homes, with foster care families, with working with the grandparents, or even working with people who were not even related to the children by any means, and they weren't even foster care related either. So, we have to get them in the safe environment
Mhm.
because, we're all seeds, and if we're in bad soil, we may not reach our full potential. And
Yeah.
so we need people nurturing us. We need a ground that's nurturing so that the good can come out of us in its full extent. And so I think, we need to find places that are safe. Also, too, there was this really sad story this young lady was telling me about a situation of abuse, and
Mm,
the auntie wanted to take over, kind of be the guardian for the child. And I said, well, you need to take some legal measures, and, even get CASA involved. And that can be a court appointed special advocate for the child. And
gotcha.
so, because we want to ensure their safety, we don't want them to go home and be re-traumatized or to
Mhm.
experience more trauma. And interestingly, so we don't want them to have ACEs on top of ACEs on top of ACEs. And
Mm,
one thing that I've seen when parents are unable to show up and provide the care and that they need, oftentimes it could be a substance use problem, it could be a mental health problem, or they've experienced trauma themselves and they don't know how to show up and parent appropriately.
yeah.
And so the thing about it is that we can't have those kids in that environment. We
Yeah.
cannot have those kids, in that environment.
Mm,
And so we just definitely want to, find a grandparent, find a new environment. If you want to take, if you are a family member and you know something is going on, then you may need to talk to the parent, take legal, and say, and not in a respect of, oh, you're not doing any good as a parent, but in respect to, I know this is challenging for you.
mm,
I feel like we at my family, you know what, we want to alleviate some of this burden. I know
mhm.
it's hard for you right now, but you know what, we'll take Tony in. We'll take Tony in during this time, and we may take Tony in permanently until so that you can get the support that you need, because we're family, you know.
Yeah.
And so people stepping up to the plate who have not just the financial resources, but the emotional resources to help that child thrive.
Yeah, very good. Very, very good. Ooh. Anything you want to add, Toya, before we close out?
No, that was just some powerful things that you said. And I have a family member in a very similar situation. So, yes, thank you for saying that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's time for our Woman of Noble Character acknowledgement. So Dr. Bolar, if you could do the honors, we usually ask that our guests share their acknowledgement during the episode. So if you could share with us who your Woman of Noble Character acknowledgement is, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, so my woman of noble character, her name is Ashley Jackson, and she's just such a phenomenal mother and wife, and she does so much for actually helping children. And so
Wow.
She's actually a school counselor as well. So I guess it all aligns. And she's really an advocate for, you know, ensuring the emotional health and well-being of kids at her school, as well as within her own home. She has probably one of the sweetest personalities ever. She's just, you know, those just lovable people. That's her. And everywhere she goes, I feel like she leaves that positive mark, and she speaks with so much wisdom, and she's the type of person who can say exactly what needs to be said in the right way. You know, some people just have that gift, you know, what people need to hear, but in a way that it really will resonate with them. And she's really a woman of noble character, and I'm honored to be her friend and to be able to do life with her.
Love it. Ashley Jackson, right?
Yes.
Ashley Jackson, you are a woman of noble character. Congratulations. Yes, very good. So last week's BE challenge, and you kind of alluded to it, Dr. Bolar, earlier, was to find one habit, or it could be a mindset or a perspective that you've adopted during these past 6 months of quarantine and, you know, during this pandemic, that you realize, hey, I need to maintain this moving forward. Identify what that is, and, you know, grab it by the horns, because we don't know how long this season is going to last. But we do know that when things do shift, you know, there is some good from this time that we need to hold on to. So, Toya, do you want to share the BE challenge for this week?
Yes, this week's BE challenge is to identify a relationship that needs more quarantine proofing and take action steps towards improving that relationship.
Yay.
That's the BE challenge.
Very good, very good. So as usual, you have dropped all kinds of gems, all kinds of nuggets, all kinds of truth, and we're just appreciative and grateful to have you. So take it, you know, take some of that information, listeners, while you can, and, you know, accept that BE challenge, and definitely tag us, you know, post on our page, you know, in our group or what have you. So we have that information and we know that you have accepted that challenge. So awesome, awesome.
And our next topic that we're going to be talking about is skin. So all about beauty, from the hair to your skin color, colorism, all of that good stuff. So that is September the 12th. And we'll have some guests, I'm sure, to join us in our discussion on skin. So we're looking forward to that discussion as well. Becoming Eva fans, don't forget to subscribe to our podcast app, subscribe to the Facebook channel, follow us on Facebook at Becoming Eva, that's one word. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Becoming Eva Today. And thank you, Dr. Cassandra Bolar, for joining us today.
Yes.
Such an honor. Thank you so much for the work that you're doing. It's these sessions and these podcasts that you all are doing, they definitely need to be shared. So thank you so much for what you all are doing.
Thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it. That's all good, people. See you soon.
Don't forget to like us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Click subscribe on YouTube and subscribe to the podcast.
Check us out at becomingevatoday.com.
or email us at becomingevatoday.com.
See you next time.